So tonight I'm going to be sharing some information regarding Tesla which may actually be quite important into the future. We're going to be talking about the potential market share of Tesla going into the future, how much market share it might end up owning, and why this could be or could be insignificant in the future. So what we're going to be looking at tonight is why Tesla market share may actually go down in the future. Not necessarily down, but sales may actually start to slow into the future years as competitors do start to catch up with the company. So what does this mean for the company? What does this mean for the stock? And what does this mean for the EV market sector in general? So honestly, we've not really got too much analysis of the actual price to do because not really been seeing too much. Actually, what we have been seeing is relatively good. So looking at the 6 month, we can really see the company is starting to stabilize. It does look like, dare I say, and we are looking at quite a slow growth and relatively decently moving company. So we're looking at 119% from June, not bad at all. But we're going to be looking at the company in the future tonight. First thing to say is I do not hate the company at all. I'm actually quite a fan of the cars. I think they're very cool. So before you do leave a dislike, actually please leave a like instead, because like I said, I'm a fan, but sometimes we do have to be realistic. So like I said, if you could leave a like and subscribe, it would be massively appreciated. So if you could do that, it would be massively appreciated, like I just said. Again, we also have a Discord server out now. If you want to join Discord, we're going to be talking about all kinds of stocks, and it's basically a great place to be. We've got about 23 members now, I think. Link is in the description, 100% free to join. Right then, so let's have a quick look at Tesla's sales for 2019, and we're going to be talking about Tesla's future sales. So yes, if we look at the graph here in the United States, we can see that from January to December, of course that's a whole year in 2019, the Tesla Model 3 really was the best-selling electric car out there. They sold way more units than the second bestseller, which was funnily enough another Tesla car, the Model X. And then when we look at the third bestseller car, we can see it's a Chevy Bolt. So the Chevrolet Bolt is actually quite close to the Model X, but what we do have to consider is the fact that the Model 3 is a relatively cheap car. I think it's like 30 grand, could be wrong on that one. The Model X is I think it's about 100 grand car, and the Bolt, I think it's like a 20-30 grand car. I think it's also relatively cheap in the price range. And it's funny to see that the Model X actually sold more units than the Bolt, which is generally speaking a much cheaper car. So we can see that people are favoring the Tesla cars more than others. So speaking about others, the second category under the Bolt is actually others. So that's undisclosed electric cars that aren't necessarily as popular. So we've got things we should actually talk about on the channel could be in there. We could have things like Xpeng, we could have things like Neo, other less popular electric vehicles are squeezing into this category, and surprisingly they aren't making up the majority of this. You can see that the whole majority is basically made up by the Model 3. Anyway, after the Model 3, we now have another Tesla car under other, so we can see that the Model S is actually the fourth best-selling electric car in the United States in 2019. So what does this mean? Basically, out of the 4 top cars in America which are electric, the ones that sold the best, 3 out of 4 are Tesla. And bear in mind, 2 out of those 3 are actually highly priced. So what does this mean? People in an expensive price range are looking to buy Tesla cars. People in a medium price range, that's where I would classify the Model S, they are also looking to buy these Tesla cars, and people in a very cheap price range or relatively more affordable price range, let's say, are dying to buy the Model 3. So generally speaking, a big win for Tesla in the year 2019. But what I think we really do need to look to, not necessarily in the United States, but also in the United States, also in Europe, is the fact that other brands are actually starting to catch up. Now, this does not necessarily mean bad things for Tesla at all. You can see that for years and years, they are still probably going to have a massive lead. But what this does mean is, even though the company is probably still going to grow quite significantly, I don't think that in the future we are going to see as big growth as we have seen in the past 2 or 3 years. We might not be looking at 800% a year. I believe that we could still be looking at over 100% a year, definitely with Tesla, but I am not saying that we're going to be seeing 800% a year. It's 100% possible that that could happen, but when we just look at the fact that others are catching up and catching up fast, you can see how this is going to work, and I'm going to explain that right now. So like I said, I am a fan of the company. However, it's important to be realistic when we look at these vehicles. So when we look at the other vehicles on the list, we have arguably more premium vehicle manufacturers than Tesla. Tesla's kind of, even though we all know what it is still relatively close to a startup company in the electric vehicle market. When we look at things like Ford, which have been making vehicles for over 100 years, we can see that Tesla is a very small company in comparison when it comes to brand awareness. However, a lot of people are aware of Tesla, so I'm not saying that it's a small brand, even though it is, if you understand what I'm saying. So it's still a big company, but not necessarily as recognizable as other brands which have been longer, surviving and also are more reputable. So with Tesla, with about 10-15 years of vehicles being produced, there is not as much reputation of reliability. So for example, if we think of things like Toyota, we think reliable. If we think of things like Ford, we might think cheap. And I think Tesla don't really have a segment yet other than electricity. But the thing is, when every other vehicle is in an electric market, electricity is not enough to just stand out by itself. And that's what I was just about to talk about. So as other manufacturers do come onto the market, we're seeing things on the list like Audi, we're seeing things like BMW, we're also seeing Volkswagen, and depending on what country you're on, one of these models may or may not be more popular, but let's think about this in the future when it comes to competition. If you've got 100 grand to spend on a Tesla Model X, just think about all the other cars that you could buy for £100,000 or $100,000. I'm sure a lot of people are going to be looking towards other companies indeed. I think people are going to be looking to buy, for example, Audis on that list, BMWs, and even when we go into more expensive price range, not necessarily a bad thing, but Tesla don't actually have a model there yet. And I know that they actually have the sports car coming soon, but they don't have a sports car yet. And I think these are the kind of things which mean that the market is going to slow. Because when it comes to a case of back in like the 1900s, when you had the Ford Model T, and if you can't afford a more expensive car, that's the only car that you can have. The only option that you've got if you want to get a petrol car is the Ford Model T. And I think the same is true for the Tesla range right now, but I think into the future we definitely have to be wary when we look at Tesla stock, because yes, I think it will grow, but I think it's important to consider the effect that rivals will have on the company in the future. So I hope you enjoyed this one. If you agree with me, come and tell me on Discord. If you don't agree with me, also come and tell me over there. Like I said, if you want to go over there, it's link in the description, completely free. And if you don't want to go over there, please do watch another video on the channel. You'd be helping us out massively. They will be on screen right now. Thank you for your time. Goodbye.